What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing one of my personal favorites, which is the upcoming TBR of the month. So as we know, it's crazy to think, but March is here. March is here. It's insane. Can't believe it's already March of 2025, but that means that I got a chance to go through my bookshelf and see what was on my TBR collection and decide what I wanted to tackle this month. So I'm very excited to present the selections for March. Now, this particular list is a little bit more mellow than some of the other reading goals that I've had for myself these past couple of months. It is going to be a very busy month, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have to actually read. So even though it's less books than my previous TBRs have been, I actually have a feeling I'll not get through all of them. But that being said, we're still going to put a challenge up for myself, and I'm going to try. I'm going to try. That's where I'm at. This month, March in general for me tends to be a thriller month. So I love to read all things thriller related, anything that keeps me on the edge of my seat. Now that can be done in a whodunit kind of fashion. It can be done in a time period fashion. It can be done just as your typical, hello Bella, your typical usual vibes when it comes to thriller, but I want some kind of mystery. I want some type of thriller. Murder is great if it's present. If not, that's also totally fine. I am also including a series in this month's collection of books. So let's jump into it. Before we do that though, I just wanted to say hi, my name is Jaya. If you're new here, welcome, welcome. I talk all things books in this little corner of the internet, and I'm so excited to have you here with me. If books are your vibe, you're definitely in the right place. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of you. And without further ado, let's go. So, we're going to pull up the stacks. We got two stacks here. Two stackalicious stacks of books. Boy, and they're heavy. Let me tell you. Now, there are 3 books in this that are an exception to the rule of thriller. They are actually fantasy, and it's only because one of these books happens to be the book that we're reading for my book club. So I'm very excited to jump into that book. Also, one of the books is strictly ebook only for me. I do not have a physical copy, and that is the book that we're going to be reading for my other book club. So excited for that. And I guess let's start with the first book club and then we'll end with the next book club. How about that? So the first book club is called PNG, or Paper and Glam. It has been going for 11 years now, which is insane to believe. I had the fortune of experiencing this book club for the first time probably about 6 years ago, and I've kind of been a strong member ever since then. I absolutely love what these girls represent, and I think the leader of that group, Lisa Marie Landreth, is absolutely wonderful. I love her philosophy about book club, and I just love what that community has created. And this is the book that we will be reading for the month of March. And I just thought even the vibes of the cover of this book is so great. The library, it's just so cute. And this is going to be the Fifth Avenue Story Society by Rachel Hawk. I know nothing about this book. I'm going in blind, and that's typically how I like it when it comes to book club books, because that way I don't really know what to expect, and it gives me the chance to be that much more excited for whenever we actually do get into the plot of the book. I also love the fact that it allows me to discuss all the twists and turns, and it lets me have a more, what is the word I'm looking for? More involved reading experience when I talk about the books with the rest of the ladies. So I am excited about that. Okay, jumping into some of the other books. The next book I have on the list is The Boyfriend. This is my first Frida McFadden book. Now she, I know, has written quite a few thrillers. I know The Maid by her was quite popular at one point on BookTube and Book Talk a few years ago. I never actually picked that one up. I did love The Maid by Nina Prose, but I have not read any of the other Frida McFadden books. I know she does have a cult following, and some people either say they love her or they hate her in terms of her writing style. This particular book is about a woman who is single. She gets on a dating profile. She's had really terrible luck with meeting people and dating anyone. And she happens to go on a dating app and meets this man. And she thinks he's absolutely wonderful. He's the perfect boyfriend. She's swept off her feet, as it says on the book. But then there's a brutal murder that occurs of a young woman, and it's right across the coast. Everyone's really confused as to how it happens, and they don't really say who the mystery man is. Apparently he serial dates before he kills his victims. And all of a sudden, she's curious as to who this man really is. So the question becomes, is the boyfriend actually the serial killer? So that is the vibes of this book. I'm very, very excited to jump into this book. Next up after that, I have a bunch of Book of the Month books on this list, but I have Kill for Me, Kill for You. This is about two women who end up meeting at a strange like coincidence in New York City, and they realize they both hate their the men in their life who they feel like destroy their families. So they come up with a pact that they're going to kill the other person for one another. Let me read this to you because it just sounds hilarious. One dark evening on New York City's Upper West Side, two strangers meet by chance. Over drinks, Amanda and Wendy realize they have much in common, especially loneliness and the intense desire for revenge against the men who destroyed their families. As they walk into the night, they come up with the perfect plan. If you kill for me, I'll kill for you. In another part of the city, Ruth is home alone with the beautiful brownstone she shares with her husband Scott, and it's invaded. She's attacked by a man with piercing blue eyes who disappears into the night. Will Ruth ever be able to feel safe again while the blue-eyed stranger is still out there? As these storylines collide in this Hitchcockian and heart-racing psychological thriller, Kill for Me, Kill for You grips you and doesn't let go until the shocking conclusion. So I am excited to read this. I think this sounds like really fun. I think it's going to be fast-paced, enjoyable, and it kind of sounds like there's two different timelines happening at the same time, and then they blend together by the end of the book. So I am curious to see how this book goes. I did see that a lot of people really loved this one, so I'm excited to see what I take away from it. A Talent for Murder. This is similar vibes, I believe, to the first book that we saw, which was The Boyfriend. This is also following the story of a woman who was perfectly fine being single. She was a librarian, and then she meets a man. She thinks he's absolutely perfect. And then all of a sudden, they've gone a year in the marriage. They're doing great. And then you start hearing stories about strange blood streaks on the shirt, stories about women who are disappearing. And the question becomes, is she married to a serial killer? So once again, this sounds like a very interesting read. I definitely do like these twisty-turvy books that kind of take you along the journey of these women discovering who these men might be and then their story with that man. So I think this is going to be an interesting read for me. And I've never read a Peter Swanson book either, so I'm excited to see what this one has to offer. Laura Dave. The last thing he told me was probably one of the best books I've read. It was absolutely beautiful. It was written by the author Laura Dave, and it was basically a story about a man who disappears from his family, leaves his daughter with his girlfriend, and they have to go through this topsy-turvy journey trying to figure out who this man is and figure out a life for themselves, because he was caught up in the middle of some craziness, and when it comes to fruition that he has to deal with, he basically chooses to disappear. So she basically writes this story of like how they go through this insane journey trying to put together the pieces of where he went. This is her next book that came out, and this was actually listed on Book of the Month again, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on this book. This is called The Night We Lost Him, and I'm going to read the inside because I don't think I can summarize it as well. Liam Noon was many things to many people. To the public, he was an exacting, self-made hotel magnate fleeing his past. To his 3 ex-wives, he was a loving, albeit distant family man who kept his finances flush and his family carefully separated. To Nora, he was a father who often loved her from afar, notably a cliffside cottage perched on the California coast where he fell to his death. The authorities ruled the death accidental, but Nora and her estranged brother Sam have other ideas. As Nora and Sam form an uneasy alliance to unravel the mystery, they start putting together the pieces of their father's past and uncover a family secret that changes everything. So I love the fact that it's like there's a man, he disappears from the picture, and now his family has to pick up the pieces. And I love this kind of like, what is the history, what is the past, like digging up everything. Like I just love those vibes, and I love that kind of thriller or mystery book, and I think this is just going to be perfect for the March season. Then I have a series. So this particular series is one that's been sitting on my bookshelf for a while. Now, people who have been following me on this channel for a while may know that I ravingly talk about that series that's sitting right there, which is the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Carrie Maniscalco. And then that was a young adult series. She has since released 2 adult novels that are part of the Princess of Sin series that she's releasing. Each one is a standalone book about a different Prince of Sin. And these are written for adults, so it's a lot more spicy. But essentially, following the other characters that were introduced in the first 3 books of the Kingdom of the Wicked. And I absolutely adore that story. That storyline is basically following the characters of Wrath and his fellow sins as they navigate the question of the main female character, which is how did her twin die and who killed her. So they get roped into this mess, and it's basically a magical realm, spicy, great storyline. Like, I absolutely ate that storyline up. I love it. It's one of my favorite series of all times. And so I realized Carrie Maniscalco has also written Stalking Jack the Ripper series. Now, this series has been sitting on my bookshelf for quite some time now. It's a whodunit kind of series as well. So in the first book, which is Stalking Jack the Ripper, the woman is basically shadowing her uncle, who also happens to be a mortician, and she basically helps him like dissect all these different bodies around the same time that Jack the Ripper is roaming the streets of London. And her goal is to kind of figure out who the Ripper is. So that's the first one. And then from there, the stories continue. So I don't know the exact order of these books. I want to say Capturing the Devil is the next one. So this one is basically when they come to America and they come to Chicago and they're at the World's Fair. So as you can imagine, World's Fair, there's crazy murders that are happening. If anyone's read The Devil in the White City, that was a more true recollection of the history that happened there, written in a story format. Beautifully, beautifully written book. So this is kind of focusing around that time and the story of the murder hotel. And then we have From Houdini, Escaping from Houdini. And this one is on a ship. They're on the RMS Etruria, en route to the investigations in America. And on board ship, the 7 nights of the Carnival Entertainment, there's a young escape artist that's being shown, and it's a perfect distraction from the fact that a death is occurring. They then have to figure out who committed the murder. And then we have Prince Dracula, which I think is actually the second book in the series. This is Hunting Prince Dracula. And this story is basically a man is impaled with a sharp wooden stake. A young chambermaid is drained of her blood. They say it's Prince Dracula, arisen from the dead. I say it's the living, not the dead, we should fear the most. So basically they're trying to figure out who is murdering these various people and draining them of their blood. So altogether, like based on, folklore or, true stories, and then basically following the leading character. Her name is Audrey, and we're basically going along with her on this journey as she keeps solving all these different murder mysteries. And from my understanding, there is a romance plot in these books as well. So the order of these books, from my understanding, is Stalking Jack the Ripper, then we have Hunting Prince Dracula, then we have Escape from Houdini, and then last but not least, we have Capturing the Devil. So I am very excited to get through this series, and as always, as I continue through the series, I will definitely give you guys updates and then do a series review as well. Next up, I have the book that actually won the Lolly Award on Book of the Month. The Lolly is basically given to the book that members vote for being the best book that was released for the year. This year, it happened to be The God of the Woods. Now, this book basically takes place, from my understanding, in a campgrounds, and this campgrounds is owned by a family. During the course of the book, we find out that one of the main characters is disappeared, and nobody knows where they are. As they try to figure out where she is, there's a lot of secrets that get thrown up, and it makes you question what actually happens in these woods. Outside of that, the disappearance of this main character is very reminiscent, that's the word I was looking for, reminiscent of a similar incident that had happened in previous years with one of the siblings, I believe. Yes, Barbara's older brother. So basically the story is kind of like a whodunit and where did she go vibes mixed together. And it did win the Lolly Award. So I'm very, very excited to sink my teeth into this. Fun fact, Book of the Month, if you are a member of their subscription service and you do order a certain number of books, you end up becoming a best friend. So you become a Book of the Month best friend. Once that happens, every year you get one book for free on your birthday, and then you always get a free copy of the Lolly book. Because this book was selected for the Lolly, they ended up doing a special edition of it with painted edges and everything that will be coming to me this month. So this book I will be giving away. I'm not necessarily doing a giveaway per se for this. I have a friend in mind, but that just made me think to myself, if you guys would ever be interested in a bookish giveaway, then definitely let me know. Maybe there's a little treat that we can do in one of these videos where I do end up giving a book away to one of you lovely, lovely viewers, and I will come up with all the details and a fun choice for that. So definitely let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in, and I'd be happy to consider that in the future. Next up, we have a young adult book. Now, I absolutely loved the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. I really enjoyed the first one and the second one. The third one was a little dark for me, but I think Holly Jackson does a phenomenal job of writing these young adult stories with very heavy topics, and they read so well in terms of the mystery content and the thrillers. So she actually released a book earlier last year called The Reappearance of Rachel Price, which I have not yet read. And I'm very excited to see where this takes us. This book is basically following the story of a young girl, and she has been growing up in her family with her mom being gone. The story is that her mother has been abducted and they've never seen her ever since. They don't know if she's still alive or dead. And then all of a sudden, years later, this woman reappears into their life and says, hey, I am your mom and this is my story. The only thing is certain things are not quite adding up. And so the question mark becomes, is this the true Rachel Price? And her daughter is out to figure it out. Next up, one of my other favorite authors, Liane Moriarty, did release her new release this past year. It's called Cure One Moment. I have no idea what this book is about, so we're going to find out together because I will read the flap for you. But The Husbands by Liane Moriarty is one of my all-time favorite thriller books. Big Little Lies was also written by her, which obviously turned into a very popularized TV show. She also wrote 9 Perfect Strangers, which was also turned into a movie or a series on ABC, I believe. And I just think, like, in general, her books have been getting a lot of traction. She's written quite a few books. I do happen to have all of them. I have read all of them. And I thoroughly enjoy her writing and the stories that she weaves. She writes very intricate characters that have a lot of depth to them, and they're very, very interesting, and their dynamics with one another is very fascinating. It also tends to revolve around a specific family set in Australia. And the nice thing about her books is the fact that they happen in a very, very short timeline. So for example, Big Little Lies happens within like a few days. You start off at the beginning of the book with a flash forward to the crime investigation that's happening. And then you get the history behind how everything came to light. You also have a similar presentation in The Husbands as well, where the book just moves very, very quickly. There's another book that's basically following this woman who has memory loss and her slowly getting her memories back. You have another one that's about a hypnotist who gets locked into the mess of dating a man and her ex is basically a stalker. She writes some very interesting books. I will say her older books were better than her newer books, but I'm still very, very excited to read this one. So let's find out what this is about. If you knew your future, would you try to fight fate? Aside from a delay, there will be no problems. The flight will be smooth, it will land safely. Everyone who gets on the plane will get off, but almost all of them will be forever changed. Because on this ordinary short domestic flight, something extraordinary happens. People learn how and when they are going to die. For some, their deaths are far in the future, age 103, and they laugh. But for 6 passengers, their predicted deaths are not far away at all. How do they know this? There were ostensibly more interesting people on the flight. The bride and groom, the jittery, possibly famous woman, the giant Hemsworth-esque guy who looked like an off-duty superhero, the frazzled, gorgeous flight attendant, but none would become as famous as the Lady Death. Not a single passenger or crew member will later recall noting her aboard the plane. She wasn't exceptionally old or young, rude or polite. She wasn't drunk or nervous or pregnant. Her appearance and demeanor were unremarkable. But what she did on that flight was truly remarkable. A few months later, 1 passenger dies exactly as she predicted. Then 2 more passengers die again, as she said they would. Soon, no one is thinking about this simply as an entertaining story at a cocktail party. If you were told you only had a certain amount of time left to live, would you do things differently? Would you try to dodge your destiny? I love the concept of this book. I think it's so fascinating, and I do have a trip planned, so you better bet your butt I will be reading this on that plane when I'm going to my destination, because I'm very excited to read this book during that time frame. I think it's going to be perfect for a flight. So definitely intrigued by this novel. I think it's going to be super interesting, and I like the fact that it's kind of exploring that idea of fate and destiny versus this question of free will. So I'm very excited to read this, and I will be reporting back to you guys soon on that. Last but not least, we have our 3 fantasy books. Now, as many of you know, One of my all-time favorite series that recently has become very popular on BookTube, everywhere really. Everyone is talking about this series. People who don't read fantasy have gotten into this series. I love this series, and that is none other than Fourth Wing. Now, Onyx Storm, which is the third installment of the Empyrean series featuring Fourth Wing, just released this past month. Now, I have purposely waited to read this book because this is the selected book for the month of March for our book club, the Overbooked Book Club. If any of you are looking to join a new book club, we are on Facebook. Our group title is the Overbooked Book Club. We tend to meet up the last Wednesday of every month, and we typically meet around 5:30 PST, 7:30 CST, 8:30 EST. I usually post the Zoom link for the discussion the day of or earlier in the week. We do polls to see who wants to read what books, and I always put up 4 to 5 books for us to choose from. And this is one of that few selections where when we read Fourth Wing, people loved it so much that we all read Iron Flame together, and we loved that too. So we're continuing that energy. And Onyx Storm is the next book that we will be discussing in March. Now, the only catch to this is everyone that I've seen who has put reviews online about Onyx Storm says that you have to read the first 2 books in order to be able to appreciate Onyx Storm, just because there's been such a gap between when Iron Flame came out and when Onyx Storm came out. So for that reason, I will be rereading all of them. So we have none other than Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I absolutely love this copy. I did get this special edition done on Etsy, and it says, "There's nowhere in existence you could go that I wouldn't find you violence." And I love that. I love that little Xaden quote. Then I also have a copy of Iron Flame that I had done through the same Etsy seller. And I also love this particular copy as well. It also has the dragon and the lightning bolts on the black painted edges. And then on the side, it says, "My house, my chair, my woman." For those who know, they know. This scene was hot. Then last but not least, we have the newest release. Also, I thought it was so cute that Barnes & Nobles gave all of us this little dragon bookmark. Like, how apropos. So I'm very excited to use that. And we have here none other than the beautiful copy of Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this particular book is the special edition with the painted edges, and I absolutely love the color scheme of this book. Like, I love the dark shale all the way down to the light gray, and I love the colors that are going through it, almost making it look like a little bit of a snowstorm. So I'm super excited to pick up the story of Xaden and Violet. I still remember all the things, for the most part, that were big at the end of Iron Flame. I'm really excited to reread those scenes, see if I can take any hints from them before I jump into this book. But I'm very, very, very excited to be reading Onyx Storm finally, and I'm super, super pumped to be able to discuss it with our discussion group. That does bring us to the end of the March TBR. So altogether we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books on this list, and then 15 including the ebook for my Paper and Glam book club. It is ambitious. I know I've done more. I know I've definitely had those months where I've read, 15 to 20 books easy. I've also had one month where I hit almost 30 books. That was October of last year. I don't know what happened. I had a major reading bug, but I am very much pumped to sink my teeth into every single one of these books. I'm so excited for the season of thrillers and mysteries, which is always March for me, and I'm just so excited to take a little bit of a break from romance. That being said, I am filming this while there's still a couple of days left in February, so I will be finishing up my February TBR. I still have one book left on that TBR. Everything else has been read, and as promised, the secondary part of the Callaway Addicted series review will be coming out as well if it has not been put out already. So with that being said, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having the same level of excitement for books that I have. I hope that this list sounds like it's going to be fun to go through and read. I will definitely give you guys updates as we're going through this list of books, and I'll definitely have that reading wrap up for you guys in the future. If there's any thrillers that I should be adding to my TBR pile, or there's any of these books that spoke to you when you read them, please leave me a comment below. I always love reading your comments and responding to them as well. English seems to be very difficult for me today, and I sincerely apologize for that. That being said, I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday, so if you're new here and this video was up your alley and you like bookish related content, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. I love creating this bookish community with you, and it's just been so much fun to go on this journey. I cannot wait to read all these books and get back to you. So I will see you guys next time, no matter where you are, morning, evening, or night. Have a lovely rest of your day and a wonderful reading journey. Bye.